All right, everybody, welcome. I have been doing this is my fourth career crisis call. And if you are like, wait, this is a career crisis call, just stay with me. Just look at me. Don't look at anybody else. Don't forget what I said yesterday. Forget what I called it a couple days. Forget it. Forget she's gone now. The woman who invented it, she's a new person now. We reinvent ourselves. We do things before, they're perfect just to get them done. And yeah, so this is a career crisis call. I am Mandy Woodruff Santos, career coach, host of the Brown Ambition podcast. And I'm so lucky to be joined by the brilliant, I'm just getting to know you, but I just feel like you have the best vibe already. It's crazy how well you can tell just from the internet, like digitally, but cozy sweater, cozy knit, and a cozy personality. It's just, hello, it's Emily Esquivel, everybody.
Hi. Thank you. That was so
Welcome.
sweet. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for coming in your time of need. So I understand recently after you said decade, you've been working as a therapist and you just launched your own practice.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I'm
Congratulations.
still like wrapping my head around that. It feels weird to, even though it's something I always wanted, it feels weird to finally be like, I'm the CEO of my own private practice. What
Isn't
is
it?
that?
It's like that thing. I think I might have girl bossed a little too close to the sun.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's so relatable. I mean, I know that you mentioned imposter syndrome in your message, just like I started a business, but now it's like, oh, I wake up and I'm a business owner. I don't have a paycheck.
That's so real. I think that like hit
Yeah.
me in a way I didn't want it to when you said that.
Um, well, tell me when you say that that you've just launched your practice, what was that transition period like? At what point did you decide? Was it like a long-term plan that you'd set in motion, or was it like you hit your FU, which I don't imagine you've ever said FU to anybody because you're a delight. I'm ratchet, so I have. Um, Mostly at my dog. But anyway, you probably thought it out and didn't like quit in one fell swoop. But please let me know a little bit about you first.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was more thought out than it was, but life happens. And like you said, we do things imperfectly and we figure it out as we go
Mhm.
along.
Yeah, and we pretend
Um,
like it was a grand plan.
right. And like going through school, it was always the plan for me. I always kind of like joked, I'll be my own boss one day. Like I'm gonna like own my own thing. And it's not
Yeah.
that weird in the practice in the therapy world, right? Everyone owns a private practice. I shouldn't say that, but lots of people own a private practice so they can do
Right.
their own thing. So it was always sort of this thing in my head that I would do that one day so I could have freedom. And
Mhm.
then I went through one really terrible job where I did come, I think it was summer of 2020 when we had all had it. And
Yeah.
I had it at
Mm.
this predominantly white organization. And that was my first sort of, I, I, I can't function in work environments like this. You'd like to think we're all therapists, we're all better people. Not the case. That
Can you tell
face?
me what the gender makeup is, Emily, of an office like that? What was the gender kind of
Well,
split?
it was predominantly female. One
I
male.
I am shocked. I am stunned. Can't you see how surprised I am?
You're shocked. You're
You had a toxic work environment full of white women.
I mean I wasn't gonna say, but you said it. You said it.
I'm allowed because I work for myself.
I
I
guess
work for
you know.
myself. And I exist in the world, and immediately I think about that profession being one that is can heavily skew white and female. And you know what, and no shade, because I think like service industries in general, like look at school teachers, but
Hmm.
yikes. Okay, so you weren't
So
loving it.
wasn't loving it. I made the move. Went to a better. One of my friends says, "Out of the frying pan into the fryer." Wait, into the fire. What's that saying?
That
Like
sounds right.
it's
It
getting
sounds
better.
stressful. Is that what you
Uh,
meant?
Well, it's a better situation I moved into, but still not the best.
Okay.
So I moved
Okay.
into a group private practice where I was getting paid a lot more, which makes a difference. Um,
What's
and
the
I
difference
was,
between a group practice and what you were doing before
it was
that?
also a group practice. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Another group practice. So
yeah.
that's where a bunch of therapists, you kind of get together, you share resources, but you probably bring your own clients, right? And
Ideally,
you
you
pay.
share resources.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ideally. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I came
Okay.
to this new practice and I was there. I was pretty content for a while, and then life happens. Money started getting tighter. A few extenuating circumstances with family. I ended up losing my dad in 2023. Um,
Oh,
and
Emily. I'm so
um,
sorry.
and that really just, you know, death will like click something in very quickly for you
Mm,
when it happens. And so when I lost my dad, I was like, I don't want to work for people anymore. Like, I don't want to be bound to like submitting PTO and people telling me
mm,
I can and can't do XYZ. Like, I want to be able to just like live my life freely on my own terms, which
mm,
back to 10 years ago was always the goal, right? And
mhm.
gratefully, he left me some money, and I used that money to say, like, okay, this is it. I don't really have an excuse
Oh.
anymore. He passed in 2023, in the fall of 2023, and it was like a year later. So, like, last end of summer, early fall, that last year, that I finally said, okay, like, I'm not out of the grieving process, but I gotta move. Like, we gotta start kind of doing things.
You tell me if I'm wrong, but I would feel a bit of pressure to do really great because you're using the money that, your dad set aside. So money has like this emotional connection to it, and you've got such a huge one. Do you feel
Yes.
like is part of your, yeah, how do you feel about that? Do you
Yeah,
agree?
money has such a huge, just like you said, emotional tie to it. And there is this like, I want to do well. I want to do right by him. I don't think I could ever do wrong by him, but there's the
Mm,
internal pressure of like, use this finite resource and make it grow and make it into this beautiful thing. And it's like, okay, that's a lot, like
yeah.
a lot of pressure for any one person.
And I don't, you don't have to say how much, but can you give me a sense of like how many months worth of savings you had
Um,
or have? And
it,
how many months do you have left before things, is that a concern?
it's not a concern, because I have my revenue. I have my work for my job, but
Oh, good. I mean, I
uh,
can't assume when you start a business, I can't assume that you're actually making money, but I'm glad to hear it.
uh, that's fair. That's real. Um, uh,
Amen. Okay.
it's, probably a couple of months at least left. And we
Okay.
used a big portion of it to do all the business startup-y stuff. So
Oh, who's we?
my wife and I, sorry.
Oh,
So
your
that's the we.
baby.
Yeah. End of last
So about
summer. Yeah.
so about 6 months then, would we say?
Hmm.
Six,
Hmm.
7-ish months, almost going on a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like. How has business been? And how you mentioned revenue. How are you doing revenue wise?
It's scary being on your own. I feel like everyone talks about opening a private practice, and like in school, all of your teachers or all of my teachers had their own practice. And, like, nobody tells you how to do it. Nobody's like, oh, and here's the plan
That's astounding to
on how
me
to do
because you're
that.
right. It's so common.
It's so common, but I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of gatekeeping, whether intentionally or not, about
Mm,
like how to do it. And especially for a little
yeah.
brown person who's just like, I don't know what, I've never run a business. What is
I'm
this?
Emily.
I'm a therapist.
I'm cute as a button. I don't stress.
Is that the vibe I give? I try to give that vibe.
You do.
Um,
I'll put you in my pocket. Not to infantilize. Is that infantilize you? Um,
okay, so how do we
but if
say
you
it?
were in a Shondaland series, I would root for you. You know, I would absolutely root for you. That's all I'm saying. You can't teach it. You can't
Shonda,
teach it.
call me.
So funny.
Yeah,
Okay, be serious, lady, because we use humor as a coping
we do.
mechanism.
We do hard in this house.
That's why we have the same language.
We're
We'll
just
never
gonna
get
laugh.
anything done, Emily. We're both just laughing as the world is burning.
What else are we gonna do? Be honest.
Right? Say lovey. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We got to get
Okay.
our shit. This is what we got to do. We got to get our shit together. Okay.
Okay.
Because your wife deserves date nights and, whatever you guys
Nice
do with
things.
your time. You deserve nice things. You deserve time off, etc. But yes, absolutely. It is. I'm a solopreneur. I totally get it. So one of the first things that I did as a solopreneur was set a monthly income goal, monthly revenue goal rather, with my financial planner. And that can be quite intimidating. But do you have a sense of like how much you need to be bringing in month after month to sort of keep the lights on,
I
personally
do.
and business
And
wise?
and we're hitting that. I should say like what feels hard and what I would appreciate coaching on is
Mm-hmm.
I want to build a like ethical, sustainable group practice, right? I know what it's like to be in
Okay.
ones that are not, and don't have the
Okay.
therapists in mind. But so right now, what I'm doing is like I'm working with a business coach. I just built out an offer, like a high ticket offer, um, because I've hit my ceiling with individual clients. I'm like, I can only see so many before I've got
Okay.
nothing left in the tank. So I built out this high ticket offer, and I'm already like, the reason I did it was so I could make more money to be able to build a foundation to bring on new therapists without having to like take all of their money from them to run my business.
Oh, okay. Because
Because
that's the typical model for a group
the
practice.
typical model is like, I will hire you, but then I'm going to take this cut, this
Mm-hmm.
pretty significant cut, so that I can run my business and make a profit, and I'll leave you with
Mm.
a little bit.
Maybe
Just
some snacks in the kitchen,
yeah,
water
exactly.
cooler, Keurig.
And they're
Can
not
you tell
all
me, like,
run
what is
like
that
that.
percentage typically? I'm curious
So
that you've experienced.
it can be 60/40, it can be
To them,
70
60 to them, 40 to you.
70/30 in really dire dire situations. Um,
Mm,
but
okay.
it is bad.
Hmm.
It's bad. And I don't feel it's fair and
Okay.
I don't feel it's ethical. And so
Mm.
what I want to do is build something different. I want to build a place where therapists want to come, stay, and go home with their money. Like,
Mm.
I just want to be in community with some therapists and have like this sort of mutual aid type thing happening.
Mm.
Um, so I built this high ticket offer with the help of a business coach,
Okay.
and I'm already like, well, I put it out in the world, and that was maybe a month ago. Nobody bought it, therefore nobody wants it ever. Uh, and I'm
Ooh,
already just like walking it back of like, there's no way you're ever gonna have this model that everyone is telling you you literally cannot have because it's not feasible. Because no one
the
has set it up.
foundation supporting the
Supporting the
practitioners, and you make money from the tangential, like other revenue stream.
right, right.
Okay.
Everyone is like,
Mhm.
nope, it's just always done like this. You have to take the money from the therapist to run the business. And I'm like,
Mm.
just because it was always done that way doesn't mean we have to like keep doing it that way.
Yeah, but a
Um,
lot of people's bottom lines, if you start doing it this way, what's going to happen to Sally Sue Private, Inc. or whatever? Like, yeah, you kind of have to, at a certain point when you're an entrepreneur, you do, especially if you're someone who's trying to go a different direction to a certain extent, as long as you understand the challenges and you understand that there's headwinds and you understand that the marketplace hasn't seen it before and you kind of get that, you don't necessarily need a bunch of other people to tell you how impossible it is. And at that point, it's like weed out anyone who's not on board and laser focus on people who are going to be and then type vibe. not but then, but and. Okay,
Yeah.
and how are we fix that? Or and how could we figure that out? So I'm glad you found a business coach. Tell me about the offer. You say high ticket. High ticket, I'm thinking like $5,000, $10,000.
Okay. It's 2,997. So
All right, Bob Barker.
$3,000. Hey, I do what the business coach tells me, okay?
I want to know when you say you put it into the world, what did that mean?
I posted it like on LinkedIn. I shared it with some colleagues. I shared it with a few people around me. And our homework is to get 100 like eyes on it, and before we get to like change what we're doing, before you get to say
Okay.
this didn't work, you need 100 people to like get their eyes on it. But so I got it out to a couple of handful of people, um,
Like five, literally five?
over 10, but not nearly 100.
You got it to tens of people, not even tens. You got it to fives of people,
Five
at least.
people. That's more accurate.
Okay.
But and
All right.
nobody has said no. I mean, no one has signed up for it. But the most
Yeah.
common feedback I get is that it's too high ticket. Um, and so I just end up spiraling, right? Of like, well, it starts
Have
with
you talked to people one-on-one about it? Like, do you email? Do you have a sales call with them?
I
What's the
have with a
funnel?
couple of people. So I've sent it. I will get feedback like via email or hop on a call to talk through it further. Um,
Okay.
so that's kind of the setup right now.
And a couple of people. So you've said, I'm not mad at the numbers. I don't want to, be, not trying to be condescending, but so let's say 10 people. Of those 10, how many converted to like a sales call opportunity?
Maybe like five, four.
Okay. 40%, 40, 50. Okay. So about half, like that's, I think, a decent rate to get people on the phone. I mean, a funnel is a funnel. Like, you're obviously going to have more people that look at your offer and say, not for me, than people who say, this is for me. Your goal, and I can get into this as far as your business coach, I'm curious how much work before you launched the offer was spent on really defining your target customer and their main problems and goals that you could be solving.
Yeah.
That was a question.
I know it was a question. I was figuring out how to
Yeah.
answer it. Um,
Honestly, is
well,
my suggestion.
honestly, I was probably supposed to spend a lot more time than I spent on like really getting into the weeds of an ideal client. I went with queer,
Okay.
BIPOC millennials because that's who I work with. What comes up in our work is finances, trauma around money, and so the high ticket offer is around going deeper with a lot of money trauma.
Oh, so
And
your
then
target audience is clients, like patients.
mhm, mhm.
Oh,
Or
okay.
anybody. It doesn't have to be,
Well,
but it's people who want to be curious about like their relationship with money. Um, what?
I filled in a story for myself that because you wanted to launch the foundation and hire practitioners. I told myself that you were, launching an offering for practitioners to help.
Hmm.
Oh, but that's very different. Oh, okay. So you're offering tell me the name of the offer that you have.
It's just a VIP day offer, and it's about going deeper with your relationship with money, understanding your relationship with money, why we spend the way we spend, why we keep
Mm.
coming up short, um, and then creating a sustainable budget and sticking to that budget for a year. So I'm having like a
Okay.
high
You're
impact.
a financial therapist. Is that your niche?
It's where I am niching now.
Okay. Okay.
So through, yeah, a lot of experience, I've just started to be like, this is excites me. I like talking about people, talking to people about their relationship with money and trauma with money, and then
Mhm.
how to build sustainable um, systems.
Gotcha. Well, I first want to point out I'm really happy that you are meeting your target monthly revenue goal. You're keeping the lights on. Wifey's happy, you're happy. Like you have bigger goals, right? But I think you sort of need to use this time and treat it as a test. You were just testing your learning, okay? And I think this was a first test, right? But as far as like wanting it to succeed, of course we do. But it makes sense to me that if you're starting with a high ticket offer to start with, and there wasn't a lot of time spent on defining your target customer and really like getting into their needs and crafting an offer that makes sense for them, then yeah, I can see why it might be a little challenging, more so because you're creating a high ticket offer for people who are struggling with their finances in some way. And and so that there's a bit of like incongruity with it, some conflict there.
Hmm.
And so I think that that's what I'm feeling. The other thing, but that's not to say I think there are people who struggle with finances, but they will spend on a Peloton or a brand new car. I don't know those people, but they're probably me. And did it. And there was something that appealed to them or made them feel like it was possible, whether it was a payment plan or it was just such a great offer they thought they were going to make that money back, or they could see how it was a clear investment. To spend $3,000, which is the cost of like a really nice appliance, you're going to want to know that it can keep your vegetables frozen and it can keep your milk cold, like you want to know that I'm going to be investing, this is a fair amount of money, into something that's going to be of value. And that's our job as business owners. We have something that we need to sell to them, but it's our job to make sure that they jump at it and they really feel like, oh, this person gets me. They know what I need. This is going to solve that problem.
Mm.
And because in this problem, it makes sense to spend this much money to solve it because it can XYZ. And if you know that price is obviously something that, consumers consider when they go to purchase something. But I think first and foremost, it's our job to really confidently, and I'll get back to that, articulate what it is that we're offering. So tell me the name of the program again. You called it, it's Emily's Just a VIP Day.
It's VIP. Now I'm like blanking on the actual name. Something about
Well, I'm
financial
teasing you a little bit because
transformation.
when I asked you,
Yeah.
you said it's just a VIP day where, so I think you should test out adding just to the beginning of that. I can imagine, don't blush. Oh my goodness, adorable human. Oh man. Yeah. Like it's the confidence thing. And if you're not believing in it, it's the same strategy that I teach when I teach negotiating. It's part of going into a conversation about what you think you're worth is like if you're confident and your vibe is like, well, duh, yes, I'm worth this and where is it at? Then the other that affects the person's decision on the other side of the table. And people don't necessarily like to hear that because it makes them start thinking, well, what if I don't have the right kind of charm or the right kind of like personality or whatever? And it comes across this way. Work on it. You can work on it. You can build confidence. You
Mm.
absolutely can. And I want you to keep working on this offer until you can really fully go into a sales call, knowing that I understand exactly where this person's coming from and I can explain my product and make the sale because I'm solving their problem and you can feel really good about that. And I don't feel like you do yet.
Yeah, I definitely still, I mean, you pointed out, right? It's just
Mm.
where inside I'm like, I know that this offer can bring you an understanding of your relationship with money that will have ripple effects forever. And that's priceless. The
It's
understanding and the
also
changing.
not it's also not specific, you
It's
know.
also not
It's
specific. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds really good, but like when we talk about the language to like really get people to make a purchase or to buy into an offer, it's like, so specifically, what am I like specifically, how will this change me?
Mm,
And I'm not saying that marketing is everything, because obviously like the actual program itself, it should be like, I'm sure you have tons to offer and all of that. But I do think understanding the language that you use to sell the course and speak about the course when you're in conversation with somebody, you're having a sales call, even if it's just like you're on the phone with someone casually or even talking to me, like it's an opportunity to practice the language around. So
mhm,
how much research did you do? Um, and it maybe not much, but when I started Mandy Moneymakers, which is my,
mhm,
it's not quite as high ticket as that. I think the most expensive package I sold when I first launched was $1,100, which for me seemed like a lot. And when I launched that offer, I had spent months doing free sessions like this to figure out, one, did I like it? Two, was I good at it? And three, I didn't have an offer in mind. I wanted to download all the women, and I chose my target audience, which was women of color, millennial to Gen Z. And I listened and I listened and I sort of did a lot of um, analyzing transcripts or taking my notes from sessions and coming up with like what I could tell were the main pain points
mm,
that they were dealing with. And when I went to create the offer, I created the offer. I'm glad to hear that you're targeting your patient or people like your patients, because you already have so much. Like you've been holding sessions for 10 years, right? I think it's just a matter of like really making sure that what your offer offers solves those primary pain points, and that
mm.
the language you're using to talk about the offer gets those points across like really, really clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I think arguably that's really helpful. Thank you. The that feels like such a time and energy investment that feels so overwhelming and daunting to me
Mhm.
that I then like psych myself out and I'm like, that's so hard.
You know, track you would take, maybe it's not so much about, you know, talking to people anew, but going back to past notes and going back to, I don't know if you keep transcripts or is
Hmm.
it, do therapists keep transcripts?
Hmm.
Okay, good. I do. Because my brain is a sieve, and I will do control F for certain words. And then I'll go back and like, maybe it's the word imposter. I'm like, how many people said imposter? How many people said um, boss or negotiate, whatever?
Mm,
And I'll try to find like these common threads. So maybe it doesn't have to be like you've done a lot of that work. Maybe the answers are already there, I'm imagining.
mm,
But, you know, you have an offer, that's great. I'm not saying to like throw it out, but there's a there is a bit disconnect between who you're trying to reach and the offer itself. Either that, or the 10 people that you launched it to were not your target client for whatever reason.
hmm,
And if that's the case, where is your target client?
hmm.
How old are they? You said they're queer, BIPOC,
Millennials.
millennials, and all the like 10 people that you spoke or pitched it to, they were all in that category?
Hmm.
Okay. So maybe there's another identifying factor, or maybe that's your main funnel bucket. That's like top of the funnel. I want to make sure that this course shows up wherever queer and BIPOC people, I don't know if you want to narrow, you said millennials, right?
Hmm.
Um, where I want to make sure that this message, you know, reaches them where they are. And then you would, you know, for example, I don't know if there's like a really famous queer or BIPOC podcast, like, or whatever, anything. Is it Out Magazine? That's a thing, right?
There's Out Magazine. Hmm. My
I know
wife
it's not
was
the only,
featured
but
in there.
oh,
You
okay.
know.
Uh,
So I have an in,
amazing.
right? No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, no, but actually, yes. And you have an in a way that I would not. I'm not a queer person. I have family who's queer, but I'm not. I haven't lived that experience, you know. So that's your superpower, and it can get you through certain doors to get to your target audience.
Mm,
So maybe part of your work can be, okay, how do I expand my audience, so that the number of people that I'm getting this offer in front of, I'm getting a larger sample size than just like the 8 to 10, you know? So getting yourself out there is definitely one way, being a guest on podcasts, talking, literally showing up live. And now the kind of client that is going to make a high ticket purchase like that, in my experience, it's not going to be their first time meeting you. It's going to be after some time warming them up,
Mm-hmm.
nurturing, they say nurture,
Mm-hmm.
getting them on your list, telling them about yourself, your story, your point of view, your why, and then dripping in, of course, valuable lessons that you can be teaching them. If they're already getting a lot of value from you, I don't know if you have a lead magnet of some kind. Do you? Oh, you don't have a lead magnet. All right. Yeah, I think it's just almost as if you've kind of started at the end of the sales process by creating the thing that you want to sell. We just got to go back to the beginning. Yeah, no big deal.
I have like a mindset reset. But how are people following? How are people finding it, right? Like it's
Yeah, what is it?
so it's you put in your email and then I send you this free mindset reset where I walk you through 4 steps of understanding your money, your relationship to money, and doing some
Okay.
reframing work. So it gets you curious about your relationship. It's 4 introspective questions, and then it gets you to
So it's like a
reframe.
PDF kind of thing?
It's like a PDF.
Oh,
You can
okay.
also type
Okay.
in it, but it's like a
So
PDF.
that is a lead magnet, but right. And then you got to lead people to the lead
Right,
magnet.
right.
It can only magnet if you can, like,
I need a
attract
person.
people. So how are you right now? Where are people encountering that? At your website?
On my website, and then I'm
Okay.
sending it out. Like I just started sending it out to previous clients.
Okay.
The part of the coaching was like, there's already people who know, like, and trust you. Why don't you send it to some of those folks, people who've worked with you, and see
Hmm.
what they'd even say? Um,
Yeah.
so right now it's really direct, like one-on-one people I already know. And it's on our
Okay.
website, but my website. Well,
And trying.
and you said earlier, you reflected it back to me, right? It's been roughly like what, 6 months? So I have
Hmm.
this like outdated, or not outdated, I have this like overblown proportion that I've been doing this for so long. Um, and it's like, it's been 6 months. Of course, you don't have it perfect. What are you saying?
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I think the fact that you're making money enough to sustain yourself, like you're hitting your goal month after month, that's a huge accomplishment. Almost like focus on making sure that stays the same. Because one of the things that I did with my whole master plan, which is so great, is I was 2 years into my business and then I was like, I'm going to have another baby and I'm going to write a book. Two of those things are not very, they don't really go well with
I'm still
putting your
waiting
head
on the book.
down.
I'm still waiting on the book.
Well, the book's happening, but you know what's suffering while I write that book and while I am the best mama ever? It's the business stuff. I'm not making as much money. It's been stressful. So part of me is like, oh, yeah, I could have maybe planned that. I mean, I think everything happens for a reason, but I absolutely could have suffered a lot less had I just really gotten my savings more
Mm,
saved up or had really like more mature roots for my business. I think
mm,
statistically, the first 5 years of a business is when most female owned businesses fail, especially run by women of color. So those first 5 years are really crucial. It doesn't mean that I don't want you to keep that goal in mind to launch your group practice and all of that, but
mhm,
you know, it's a balance between trying new things, as I think you should always be testing and learning, but then keeping your core foundation of
mhm,
your business that's working because you're booking clients. That's also an area where you want to really make sure that you understand what are the pain points that a lot of therapists are feeling and why would they want to join my practice and how can I solve their biggest problems? And I bet, yes, the fact that you're not going to take 70% of their pay is a huge selling point. But I'm imagining stability, whatever became toxic, the gatekeeping about your other job, like, you can solve that problem, but be in conversations with them. Um, and my last, well, not my, well, it has to be my last question. I'm sorry. Is how many friends or close friends do you have, or how healthy is your community of other solopreneur therapists of color? All right. It's very simple. Community, community, community. I need you to go find your people. And your people may not be, well, you're in Chicago, it's a big city, like you have to make new friends, truly. And it's not easy because it's not so much gatekeeping. I think that sometimes what we perceive as gatekeeping is really somebody who's embarrassed and doesn't want to let us peek behind the curtain because they're not sure of themselves. But when you start to slowly build trust with other people doing what you're doing, there's nothing more powerful. I think I've been aware of this other podcaster called Nikayla. She has a podcast called Side Hustle Pro. I've been aware of her for years. I think when was this? Over the Christmas holidays, we finally just randomly were like, "Are you struggling? Me too. You want to be friends?" And now we're each other's accountability buddies, and we call once a week. And I'm not saying every relationship has to go that deep, but start planting those seeds now because you're going to need them when you grow for the next 3, 5, 10 years. 50,
Okay.
because you look so young. So I'm a long time
Yeah.
ahead of you.
You are not a long time ahead of me.
Oh, well, I'm also a spring chicken. Thank you, Emily. Thanks so
Thank
much. Thanks for
you.
being so great. I really hope this was helpful.
So helpful. Thank you.
Make sure that we stay connected. Add me on LinkedIn. Let me know how things are going.
Thank you so much. I
Right.
really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank
So
you.
nice
Bye,
meeting
Emily.
you. Bye.